What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Links and Locks podcast, the DFS edition. I'm Jason Sobel from GolfBet. He's Len Hochberg from RotoWire. I am at East Lake Golf Club right now, site of this week's season finale. We made it, guys. We did it. We finally got there. It's been a long year. Whew, need a little break after this, but yes, at the Tour Championship this week. And Len, what's going on? Hope you're doing well. And as we start looking at some DFS prices for this week's Tour Championship, we understand, it's going to be like that. 30 players in the field, and the pricing is, let's just say there's a little disparity between the top and the bottom.
Yeah, it is amazing, and it is the end of the season, Jason. And I hope you have got something exciting planned for the long golf off season, the long cold winter, that whole week off before we things get started back again. It's my annual "What are you doing in the golf off season?" joke. Wasn't funny from the beginning, and but that's not going to stop me, right?
I'm laughing. I like it. I feel you. We've had seasons where literally there was 2.5 days. I mean, you can count the hours in between from one season to the other one.
Yeah, the real off season is, I guess, December and stuff. But I do look forward to that. It is nice to get a break. But yeah, it's crazy when this debuted. The starting strokes format, I believe, is the official PGA Tour name of this staggered start. We start with Scotty Scheffler at 10 under and $13,600, and we go all the way down. Well, if you want to go down to the lowest DraftKings price, that's Tom Hoge at $5,000, but he's at 1 under, and I'm probably getting ahead of ourselves. But yeah, there's a whole different sort of strategy this week because it's not apples to apples. Everyone is starting, or a lot of guys are starting at different places, and it really brings another layer of strategy into things. And I remembered every year that it is pretty interesting because it makes us think a different way, at least for 1 week out of the year.
So give everybody a little primer on this. So we know that there's a staggered start to the scoring this week. The leaderboard will show Scotty Scheffler atop the board at 10 under to start, Patrick Cantlay at 8, Will Zalatoris at 7, down to a handful of players who are at even par, 10 shots back. What does that mean for DFS purposes? Does it mean that Scotty Scheffler is just in first place to start, or does he essentially have 10 birdies already in the bank before he even starts? What are we looking at on DraftKings as we move into this week?
Well, he does have a 10-shot lead over some other guys, the 5 bottom guys, but he does not get 10 birdies.
Okay.
The scoring for DraftKings is pretty normal from the starting position that these guys are under. We still get whatever it is for birdies, whatever it is for pars, whatever it is for bogeys. The scoring is the same. What really could impact things is the bonuses. You get, I believe, 30 points if your guy wins, 20 points for second, and so on down the line. And so Scotty Scheffler may not win the tournament with a low 72, but if he wins the tournament in the eyes of the PGA Tour, then he gets that 30 points. It's, I hope I'm not confusing the matter here and making it harder for people, but the DraftKings bonus prices is based on the PGA Tour leaderboard,
sure,
and not the world ranking leaderboard, which goes with the low 72. And that's a whole podcast in itself, I think.
In a sense, you're almost playing this like it's a Sunday showdown, in which, unlike the other showdown days, the Sunday one considers what place players are in. And so I think it plays sort of similarly like that. So let's just jump in here and get into some of the pricing. We'll start at the top. As you mentioned, Scotty Scheffler at 13.6. And I said, we're going to see a major disparity this week. Patrick Cantlay next at 13,000. Xander Schauffele at 12.3. Will Zalatoris at 11.5. John Rahm at 10.9. Rory at 10.8. Cam Smith at 10-4, and I guess I'll cut off the top tier there, but there's a very definitive top tier this week. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I mean, it's already something to think about right away because the DraftKings prices do not go completely lockstep with the starting position. For instance, John Rahm is $10,900. He's what, the one, two, like fifth guy on the board, but he's starting 7 shots behind Scotty Scheffler and behind uh 10 other guys. So and that's because, well, Rahm was the low 72 last year, and Rahm really starting to show late in the season that he's returning to being John Rahm. He was right in the mix, on the fringe of being in the mix last week, and was a great putter. Um, you know, 2 of the 3 years that the tour has run this staggered start format, the 10 under guy won the last 2 years. The first year, Rory McIlroy was way back at 5 under, and yet he won the tournament. He had the low 72. He was the champion of the FedEx Cup. It was so, that was sort of a perfect ending for the tour, where there was, without any controversy, that the low 72 was also the tournament winner. But that wasn't the case last year. But I still think at 13-6, Scotty Scheffler has value at 10 under par. We did see that the last 2 years, Dustin Johnson 2020, Patrick Cantlay 2021, started at 10 under, didn't win the tournament in low 72, but got that 30-point bonus. And that 30 points is a lot. That will decide games in DraftKings. So I do like Scotty Scheffler. I do like John Rahm, even though he is starting so far back. He is really playing well. And, it gives me pause because scrambling is a big part of this week. He's still not scrambling well, putting much better. And Xander Schauffele is another guy that you mentioned that I like. He's 12-3, third guy on the board. Nobody plays this course better than him.
Okay, so I'm going to preface this, Len, by saying that it might be my least favorite DFS week of the entire year. And so I know there's a lot of talk in the news right now about how the PGA Tour might have more exclusive events for the elite players, smaller fields, no cut, sort of like we have this week. To me, that's not nearly as much fun as having 156 players, having a cut after 2 days, trying to get 6 out of 6 through in a lineup. So that's my first point. My second point is I think you need to be different. If you take the same players as everybody else is taking, if you look at ownership percentages and say, hey, well, I like Scotty Scheffler. I know everyone else does, but I'm going to take him anyway. I just don't think there's a great chance of winning, especially in tournament contests this week. So even though I like Scheffler, I like Cantlay coming off a win. I like Xander, who plays well here every year, as you mentioned, never finished worse than 7th in this event. I'm looking at Rahm and Rory as my 2 plays of guys that I really like, just sort of a little bit further back, big names trending in the right direction. And then the other 2 guys I look at, just if I want to get different, are Will Zalatoris, who was hurt this past weekend, withdrew with a back injury. Every reason to believe he'll be healthier this week. He comes in third in the scoring on the leaderboard. And so I look at that and say, maybe he's scared off enough people where they stay away from Zalatoris this week. And same thing with Cam Smith, who took last week off with a hip injury, maybe just trying to avoid certain things in Wilmington last week. But the fact that Cam Smith had a week off, it almost makes me like him more at a time of the year when everyone's tired, everyone's a little burnt out, everyone's worn down. The fact that these guys had a little extra time to relax and get healthy, I almost think that helps them a little bit. And in a week when you've got to be different, go all the way different. And I don't mind trying to get some differences with those guys there. Let's get to this mid-tier. Sam Burns, Tony Finau, Justin Thomas, all really good players right there. Sung J M, I'll keep it going with Cam Young, Matt Fitzpatrick, Victor Hovland, Joaquin Niemann, Hideki Matsuyama, and Corey Connors. Takes us down to 8,000. From that range, who do you like? Who do you not like?
Can I ask you? I'd like to ask you one question. Since you're on site, I want to ask you about Cameron Smith. And I mean, everybody knows. And what is going to be the reaction? What is, if you've seen, has there been cold shoulders? Have there been warm greetings? And could this affect him on the course with his fellow competitors?
So it's still Monday afternoon right now. We're speaking about a little before 4:30 Eastern time on Monday afternoon. It's rained for most of the afternoon. They blew the horn about 2 hours ago. And so if there are any players left here, I haven't seen them in a while, but I know Cameron Smith. I can tell you one thing and one thing only. First of all, is that he was dressed to play golf today. There were only, of the 8, 9, 10 players that I saw on site, only 3 of them showed up looking like they were ready to play golf. Colin Murakawa, Scotty Scheffler, and Cameron Smith. I saw Sahith Theegala. I saw Sepp Straka. Those guys, t-shirts, gym shorts, varying degrees of not really ready to play golf. And maybe they just went into the locker room and changed. Maybe that was just their travel gear, but at least Smith was dressed to go play golf, which I guess is a good sign. Secondly, if you know, and I know, and everyone knows, and people listening know, I guarantee all the other players know what's going on with Cam Smith. Look, at this point, I just don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I don't think it's going to impact how he plays. I don't think it's going to impact the reaction he gets. Maybe some folks here in Atlanta outside the ropes give him a little more grief than he ordinarily would have gotten. But usually this isn't one where this isn't the type of event where there's too much heckling going on or anything like that. So I just don't think it's going to impact things very much.
Well, in that case, and thank you for the answer. In that case, I would think Cam Smith would be a good play. He has not played especially well here in the few times he's played here before. But one of the things we've seen through the years, and to get into a mini course description, accuracy off the tee matters more than distance. Sure, distance would help, but you got to get the ball in the fairway at Eastlake. And then, it's really a second shot golf course. And the greens are hard to hit, even though they're kind of big, because they tend to be more long and narrow than wide. It probably doesn't suit the golfer's eye like a lot of weeks. And so greens in regulation tend to be a little bit lower. Greens are missed. What happens then? Scrambling. Okay. Cam Smith, bingo, right there. So if that's the case, and I do think he is shown to be mentally tough and really determined to try and do well, or at least go out on a high note. And I do think
Costanza, I get it.
Yeah, and so I do think that he can block out a lot of things and play pretty well. So I do like him. There aren't a lot of guys in this middleness, and I'm not even sure what the middle is, because we're talking about 4 under, 3 under, or DraftKings prices. But Justin Thomas at 9,400 tends to do well here. He's never finished worse than 9th. I think he's had top 5s 3 of the past 5 years. And again, these are low 72 scores I'm talking about, because that's largely what we're going to be playing for most of the time this week in DraftKings. And that's pretty much it for the 9s for me. And in the 8s, there's not a lot I like. Maybe Matt Fitzpatrick, but Hovland with scrambling, and Neiman hasn't played well here, and Matsuyama's been sort of dicey here. Not a lot there I like.
Yeah, so I'm going to go just to the very top of this tier at 9,900. Bermuda Burns. We're back on Bermuda greens this week, and Sam Burns tends to do his best work there. I could certainly see him having a big week this week, and maybe even taking the FedEx Cup title. So I do like him at that price. Then at the very bottom of that tier, where we arbitrarily cut it off at 8,000, Corey Connors playing some really nice golf right now. Ball striker. I could see him having a good week. And then I'm going to throw out one more name in the same vein as Will Zalatoris and Cameron Smith. We have absolutely no idea what to expect from Hideki Matsuyama these days on a week in, week out basis. There is certainly a high risk involved in taking him. He had a neck injury, withdrew from the FedEx St. Jude Championship a few weeks ago, played average last week at the BMW, but he's played well here before. And so if you're looking for a guy that maybe people stay away from, maybe the ownership percentage is low, again, you don't have that many players to choose from. Maybe you throw Hideki in a few lineups just to get a little bit different. All right, we're going to look at the quote unquote lower tier. I don't think I've ever looked at a lower tier that starts Colin Morikawa, Jordan Spieth, Max Homa before, but we're going from them all the way down to 5,000 in pricing. So this is where you're going to win it or lose it this week. Who do you like from this range?
Yeah, and you mentioned Colin Murakawa, and he was pretty darn good. He was great for 3 days. Last week he was in the third to last pairing on Sunday. And yeah, we all know he had that 10. He blew up with that 10. he wasn't having a good day before that. He had lost about 4 or 5 strokes to par before that. So something was going on. Maybe he only had a 72-hour window on his fade, and then the Magic Genie took it back or something. I've never really heard of a guy with the iron yips before, and where they come and they go like that. But this is something new to me. But maybe I'm not close enough to golf. But all of that said, I am going to go one final time with Colin Murakawa and focus on the first 3 days. And I don't know why I keep having visions of Lucy yanking away the football at the last possible second. She can't possibly do it again when we pick Colin Murakawa, but I do like Colin Murakawa. And going down the board, Billy Horschel at $6,900. He's played here very well. We all remember 2014 when he won, but he's had some other good years here. He doesn't make it every year, but he was runner-up one year. He's been 7th twice, including last year. Obviously, something really good about Billy Horschel and Eastlake. Sahith Theegala, 6,700. I mean, I was so impressed with him last week that he was under such pressure, and he had to make such big-time putts to get here. Just an incredible performance. It's almost like, I don't want to say like a weight will be lifted from his shoulders and things will be easier this week, but I do like him. And if we're going to play 2 top guys, you mentioned Rahm and McIlroy. Well, that's $22,000 there, roughly right there. We're going to have to dip into the 5s. I'm sort of looking at Brian Harman at 5,700. This course, accuracy, not so much length. Putting will be important. The greens are tricky. I like him, and especially putting. JT Poston, $5,100. It's worth a flyer. It's worth a flyer. I mean, how low can he finish? And if he gets hot with the putter, 5,100 is an absolute steal.
I think I've got all the same guys listed as you for this lower tier, which is amazing. Colin Murakawa right off the top. Yeah, I know. We're both going down in flames here. But Colin Murakawa, I've been on him the last couple of weeks. I'm not going to jump off now. I do think the ball striking has been better. He looks and feels a little more confident, even though the final round in Delaware was not great. I'll throw Max Homa in there. I know you didn't mention him, but I do think Homa's a nice play at 7,500. And then, same as you mentioned, Billy Horschel, 6,900, has a really good record here, tends to move up the leaderboard every single year. Brian Harman at 5,700 back on Bermuda greens. And JT Poston, I think, is a really nice play this week. He is maybe, other than the rookies, the guy that you might have least thought would make it to Eastlake starting back in September when the season started, 11 months ago? And looking at Poston now, you said, well, he's got exactly what we're looking for, which is the house money, playing with nothing to lose. I guess a lot of players kind of feel that way this week, but this is where we tend to target Poston in the Southeast on Bermuda greens. And so I do like him, and I love that number. 5,100 sort of opens up the lineup to spend up and get some guys that you really want this week. So, all right, let's get into it. Like I said, this is not my favorite week for making DFS lineups, but we're going to do it here on the pod anyway. Len, where do you want to start it off?
Really tricky where to start. It'd be easy to go to Xander, but let's put Xander off on the side. I don't know, maybe just under the knowledge that he is, does play this course well all the time. And he will be highly owned. And you talked earlier about looking for differential. Obviously, with a 30-man field, very hard to find differential. I kind of think that Jon Rahm, with a high price and 3 under starting so far back, will scare people off and might be able to find value there. The thing that concerns me about him is the scrambling. His putting returned last week. He was putting great, but he did not scramble last week. It wasn't really a scrambling course. This week, he will have to scramble better. Last year, when he finished tied at the low 72 with former PGA Tour golfer Kevin Na, sorry, cheap shot. He was second in the field in strokes gained around the green, or first and second in scrambling, either first and second, one in back and forth with those two. So he was really on his short game last week. But let's go Jon Rahm, 10-9.
I like that a lot. I'm all over Rom this week. I'm going to go down to the other end of the board. And what I'm looking at here is, let's see, 8 events ago. This might not make a whole lot of sense, but 8 events ago, Brian Harman finished in 18th place at the Memorial Tournament. Pretty good, right? 6 events ago, he was 8th place at the Travelers. 4 events ago, he was 6th at the Open Championship. And 2 events ago, he finished in 3rd at the FedEx St. Jude Championship. What I'm getting at is every other start has been really good for Brian Harman, and it's been getting better. It's been trending in the right direction. I don't think he can finish first from where he started and starting this week, but I do think this is a really good course for him. And I do think that just based on that trend, that pattern, he should play some really good golf in that every other week trend that he's been showing off recently.
And another Southeast guy.
Yep.
All right, let's just, cat out of the bag or whatever. I don't even know what I want to say there, but Colin Murakawa, 7,900. I'm really surprised in the 100 tier. One of the things I like to do is look in each tier of the 2-unders, the 1-unders, whatever they are, and see if I can find value within there. Well, certainly Brian Harman in that 100 tier at 5,700 looks great. We talked about Murakawa, we talked about Billy Horschel, but I don't see Corey Connors at 8,000 being great value there. He's not performed well at this course in the past. So I like Colin Murakawa a lot better, cheaper than Corey Connors and cheaper than a lot of guys, Victor Hovland, Joaquin Niemann, Matt Fitzpatrick, really with only a 1 or 2 stroke difference, which could be gone by the front 9 on Thursday. Colin Murakawa, 7,900, one final time. Charlie Brown kicked the darn football.
Yeah, I like that. I'll spend some money with this pick. It might keep us from getting another high price player, but as I mentioned, it's been a great year for Sam Burns. Look, at the beginning of the year, sort of put Scotty Scheffler and Sam Burns in the same boat. I get it. Scotty Scheffler sort of sailed off in that boat a lot quicker than Sam Burns did, but I think they're closer in sort of talent level, in future, in what they're going to reap over the next 5 or 10 years than it seems right now. Sam Burns on Bermuda greens again, maybe a little something to prove to his buddy at 9,900, I think is a really nice play.
All right, what are we looking at here?
We've got 15.6 left to spend, 7,800 per player, and feel free to spend something. I can go low.
Yeah, well, we both like. I'm going to give you the chance to really put the cherry on top, or add the final victorious golfer that will rake in all our cash, and we will retire from this podcast. And we both like JT Poston for the reasons mentioned earlier. He's just a low price. The question with JT Poston and a few of the other guys for me is, how starstruck are they going to be this week when they walk around and they see there's hardly anyone there, but they're there? And everywhere you turn is Rory or Rahm or Scheffler, and you're going to see every superstar in the game just about this week. If he can just sort of get his nerves under control. He's not a rookie, so been around a few years. Maybe he can handle that a little bit better. And the putting, like we talked about, can really just cure a lot of things on a golf course. 5,100.
I like that play a lot. I'm going to have a lot of posting this week. All right, Len, I'm going to make a statement here. And the statement I'm going to make might sound a little exaggerated, but I think we need to follow this, especially in GPPs this week on DFS. We have 10,500 left to spend. We can just spend almost all of it, leave 100 on the table, and get Cam Smith, who I mentioned earlier, might be a nice play just based on ownership percentages and people being scared off of that hip injury and the rumors and everything else surrounding Cam Smith right now. We go 9,600, spend a lot of it, and go with Tony Finau, who certainly has been playing well. Had a poor first round last week and then came back with 3 rounds in the 60s and finished pretty well. Justin Thomas at 9,400. Look, Justin Thomas, one of the best players in the world. Why would you not want him? I can go with any of those players. I'm going to go down, and just on a lark, I'm going to take Billy Horschel at 6,900. Now, I get that, if it's straight, hey, cash game, who do you like better? You're going against me, head to head. Who do you want in your lineup? Justin Thomas, who starts at what, 4 or 5 under? I don't have it in front of me right now. Or Billy Horschel, who I believe starts at even or 1 under. Of course I want Justin Thomas, but this is more of a GPP type of lineup. I can take Billy Horschel, leave 3,600 on the table, and have what I think should be more of a unique lineup than something that's going to be out there with a lot of other be repeated by a lot of other owners out there in DFS. And so I just like the idea of leaving a lot of money on the table and trying to get different this week. And so again, this might be a little exaggerated example, but I think throwing in a Billy Horschel over a Cam Smith or a Finau or a JT might be an interesting play this week.
Yeah, and to your point, there's only 2 shots difference. Justin Thomas 3 under to start, Billy Horschel 1 under to start. That could be gone in the first hole, as we know. $2,500 difference. That is huge. Despite the 13,000 prices all the way up at the top, we're still limited to $50,000. And Billy Horschel has played this course almost as well as Justin Thomas over the past number of years. Not quite, but good enough. And to be able, now we're not spending $2,500 somewhere else because we're done. But if someone else is considering that at the top of their first and second picks, then they may have $2,500 to spend somewhere else later on.
There's the lineup: Burns, Harmon, Horschel, Murakawa, Hostin, Rahm, leaving 3,600 on the table. I know that sounds crazy. We'd never do it in a full field event, but you're going to have to be creative. You're going to have to be different this week if you want to win a big contest. Why not take a shot like that? So that's our lineup for this week. Thanks to everybody out there for listening to this edition of the Links and Locks podcast. Remember, you can find us anywhere you find your favorite podcast. Download, subscribe, rate, and listen every single week. We'll be back in a few weeks. We get a few weeks off after this. It's the season finale Tour Championship. For Len Hochberg, I'm Jason Sobel. Good luck with all your Tour Championship lineups this week. Here's hoping you guys hit the green.